Brian Silverfield has continued that and has done a really good job with the program. And they got a big game coming up on Friday night up against Tulane, the college football playoff rankings, obviously. They came out last night, and Memphis is going to be the G5 representative in the first installment of the college football playoff for this year's rankings. And we'll see how that does transpire and go down at the end of the year. But Ryan Silverfield, the head football coach at Memphis, is kind enough to join us right now. Coach, appreciate the time. How you been?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Zach. Doing great. Obviously excited for Friday night, but I appreciate you having me on your show.
Yeah, well, thanks so much for coming on. And, man, I turned on my television this morning, and Stu Feiner is a very good friend. I've been to his house multiple times. I've had the Zorn's chicken. And you go to Stu's house, it's like 4 people. He orders food for 30. That was a nice little pump-up speech he gave you your program this morning.
I tell you what, I loved it. That's the first time I've had the opportunity to hear him talking. Man, he got me fired up. I do have to take a trip there in the off season because if he says it's the best fried chicken in the country, I got to be there. It sounds like a hell of a good time.
I don't know if it will end up being the best fried chicken. I've had Zorn's chicken as a kid growing up on Long Island. It is phenomenal chicken. But I will tell you this, hanging out with Stu Feiner will be one of the craziest, best experiences that you've ever had. There's no doubt about that.
Well, I'll put it on the books for the offseason. I can't wait.
Yeah, recruiting trips to Long Island, New York, I'm sure are maybe in the plan for you. All righty, so last night, you guys aren't in the top 25 by the College Football Playoff Ranking Committee, but you guys are the G5 representative. I know it's the first installment. You want to be there for the last installment, but how do you kind of react to it?
Look, to be honest, it didn't pay it much attention because it really doesn't matter. Like you said, we'll look up when the dust settles at the end of the season and hopefully with a conference championship and figure out what happens. Our goal going into this year, and our players know this, was to win the conference championship. And really every week, we don't even talk about that. We don't talk about the playoffs. All we talk about is our next opponent. And look, it's going to be a big one on Friday night versus Tulane. So if we handle our business, cool, we're still in the fight. But we understand it's a one game at a time approach, a 1-0 mentality. And our guys have done a fantastic job of keeping the focus on the task at hand.
So is there any need to then bring that up with the way that you just laid it out to your team? Because naturally, right, a kid could see it and they could say, hey, coach, right now we're in the playoff. And even if it's not intended, you never know what complacency could maybe, seep on in.
No, yeah, we don't. I don't even know what the word complacency means. I tell our guys all the time, man, we've got to go. It doesn't matter if we're playing whoever, right? And I love Rhodes College, but if we're playing Rhodes College or Notre Dame, right, we've got to bring our best game. And our guys have understood that, and just to have that focus and the mentality to be at our very best. And look, all of our goals are still in reach. And so that's why there's no point of talking about it because they understand. They're smart enough. They're on social media. They get it figured out. Let's go out there and handle our business.
As someone that is a fan of American Athletic Conference football with the American, I know how truly week to week it is. And it does feel, if you're this late in the season, you lose one game, everything you had right there then could get eliminated from you and just be lost. A few weeks ago, you guys lose to UAB. You bounce back up against a heck of a South Florida team that's having a wonderful performance. You beat them by 3, then you beat Rice. I know you guys had a tough football team, but in the last 2 games, what did your football team really show you?
Yeah, I think it goes back, right, to the resiliency of the guys, and it goes with that Arkansas game. For us, they came into here, play an SEC team, and, we were down, and our guys battled back. They believed the whole time, and then you obviously hit a bump in the road with your first loss of the season, and you kind of wonder what you have because we got 78 new players, new starting quarterback that, had only been here since January, a lot of new guys all over the map. And ultimately, I wanted to see how they responded, and their mindset, their approach has been fantastic. And so, you got to see that with even being down the South Florida game, right? South Florida ranked opponent. They've taken down some teams throughout the season. So we knew it was going to be a hell of a challenge, and our guys fought and clawed and scratched for 60 minutes of that game, and we found ourselves on top of the victory. And then you go handle our business pretty darn well in the first half versus Rice, and a solid win. And now back at home, and look, we got to continue to bring it.
And I like the way that you worded that because you talk about all the new players. And, I talked about in the open, you guys have been bowl eligible now for 12 seasons. Even with new coaches, there's been sustained success at Memphis. So a few weeks ago when you say, hey, you guys have had the largest rebuild in college football, you don't think of a program like Memphis as rebuilding because you guys have been bowl eligible each and every year. But now with how easy it is to leave and how easy it is to go to different schools, every year is almost a new season where you almost have to rebuild your team.
1000%. And we lost just a couple guys to other schools, mostly that they would be the first to tell me that we lost them for financial reasons. But most of the players that have come here love being here, love being a part of this, the championship culture that they've created. Right when we tell everybody that going to a bowl is absolutely the minimum expectation. And as we're seeing teams every year that I've been here continue to fall off, those that have been to consecutive bowls, it's getting harder and harder to sustain. But I'm proud of the guys because a lot of them have just bought into, hey, this is how we do things. This is how it works at Memphis, and this is what it takes to win championships and compete at the highest level. So, I got asked one time, is that harder to sustain or harder to build from the ground up? Aren't every year we building from the ground up? I mean, maybe next year we'll have 3 returning starters again, just like we did this year, and there'll be another. Every year is a rebuild, especially I think at the group of 5 level. But look, our guys have bought it, and that's all I can ask for.
There's so much change like you're talking about, but the standard still remains the same for you guys, which is at a high level. Like you said, bowl game, that's the bare minimum. With that being said, only having 1 loss at this point of the season is pretty damn special. Does it surprise you at all at the success that you guys have been able to have so far this season?
It doesn't. I think a lot of people looked back. Last year we had a 4-year starting quarterback that, we started as a 17-year-old as a true freshman. And I don't think people had real high expectations. And then as he got better, people's expectations for the program, right? We went to a 10-win season and beat Iowa State in the bowl game. Then the next year, 11-win season and beat Florida State and West Virginia. And this year, people said, okay, hey, they're going to be starting from scratch again, a new quarterback who hadn't won a lot of football games. But nobody has higher expectations and standards than we have within this building. And that's really ultimately what's so important to me is, look, I'm pissed off about the 1 loss. But all we can do is, again, focus on this Tulane game, and we'll look up at the end of the season. I think we'll be pleased.
What has impressed you the most getting to know Brendan Lewis this year, your quarterback, and just the way that he could beat people in so many different ways?
Well, look, let's start with this. And this is no knock on his previous institutions, but I think he's a young man that won 5 games in 6 years. 5 games in 3 years. And, you always want a quarterback that's a winner, but he has the winning mentality. And I mentioned this earlier, like he's the only dude that beats me in the office on Tuesdays and Wednesday mornings. And I love that. Like I love walking down the hall, at 4:58 a.m. Like, man, he beat me again. And that's a good thing. Like I'm just so pleased that it's him.
You're slacking, coach. I expect better than you,
Hey, don't worry. Sometimes I just set the alarm 5 minutes earlier just so I can give him a harder time. Hey, beat you here. And then, but we don't need to have that competition. Next thing you know, we'll be both sleeping here watching film together. But no, he loves football. He's intelligent. He cares so much. And I think what's happened is this winning, right, becomes contagious. And he's so pleased to be a part of this culture, and he's bought into the Memphis way. And so I couldn't be more proud that he's our quarterback.
Where is he at from a health standpoint going into this game on Friday?
Yeah, it's still to be determined. It truly is. That's not coach speak. We're gonna feel for him as we get closer. We do tomorrow. We'll try to do a full speed practice. We'll get a good evaluation. If not, we've got 2 great young quarterbacks that we really like. A redshirt freshman and a true freshman. Both have played meaningful snaps for us this year.
So obviously he's had the relationship with Cortez Brown Jr. And you got to know him a lot, over this year. And then Jamari Hawkins has taken that next step too. Just tell me a little bit about those 2 wide receivers and what they've brought to the program this season.
Yeah, let's start with Cortez. I mean, he's a young man that, really joined our team 10 days before the first game and did a heck of a job of studying the playbook and kind of getting into implemented what we wanted. It's kind of the Diego Pava rule. Like he was waiting on his whole deal to pass, and you just never knew, right? We saw some of those things happen in college football. Some, happen late. You talk about the West Virginia players that found out later on. Just the nature of it. But he's been great. He has got big playability. I think he's had some multiple catches on SportsCenter top 10 just with what he can do. But just been so pleased. And I think that relationship between those 2 from their time at Nevada obviously is having direct correlation on their success this year. And then Jamari Hawkins, right? A young man that wasn't really highly recruited out of high school. They kind of paid his dues. And it's harder and harder to find that in college football. A guy that didn't start as a freshman. Then he redshirted. Then his redshirt freshman year didn't play. Then his redshirt sophomore year, not really seeing the field, barely traveled. And then he, in due time, he's come out and now been a great, great player for us. He's got dynamic speed and just couldn't be more proud of his continued growth. And more than anything, just the patience to say, you know what, I love this program. My time will come. And if I can only start for a year, if I can start for 2 years, it's all going to be worth it.
I know you were part of that staff in 2019 that won the conference. With Mike Norvell, obviously. For you,
Are you gonna bring up your game at Temple?
No. I won't do that. But let me just ask you this about that. You said that you want to win the conference, right? Like that's the goal. Is that what the standard is for Memphis now? It's win the conference and be playing in the college football playoff?
Absolutely. I think that's where we've said it. And I'm okay with that. Like, I like the fact that our president, our athletic director, and the fans say, yeah, you should win the conference every single year. You should at least be competing for conference championships. And that is the standard, right? Like, man, the fans expect it, and so do I. And that's what you want. The fact that we built this place up. And I always give credit to those that came before us. I joke around sometimes. 2 years before I got here, at one point there was an article about Memphis dropping football. Justin Fuente was on the hot seat because back-to-back losing seasons. And Paxton Lynch came on, and this thing kind of got turned around. And it's just every year we've seen it continue to grow. I give a lot of credit to Norvell. But look, we're standing on our own merits, and we got to continue to swing away at this thing.
My memory could be hazy and a little foggy on this. Wasn't there some controversial catch in that game with Temple and Memphis? It's been a while. The last few years up until Casey Keeler now has the Owls rolling back in the direction. I try to forget some of those years. But wasn't there, and was Antonio Gibbs someone, right? There was some controversy.
Joey Magnifico. I think, I could probably tell you exactly where on the field it occurred. Going towards the locker room, right hash, our tight end, Joey Magnifico, a local young man that was a walk-on, whether it was a catch or no catch, just a continuation of the drive. They ruled it a no catch. That's the nature of it, right? That's college football at its finest. And so that was the one loss during the regular season. But I also go back and I think about, that year we played at Tulsa. They had a freshman kicker that missed a 24-yard field goal chip shot. And when he missed it, guess what? We got College game day here the next week, all because of a missed chip shot field goal. Had it been a different story, I always joke around. I don't know if I'm here, Mike's at Florida State. It's funny how this whole thing works. It's like the late shot on Drew Bledsoe. It changed the direction of as we know it.
Well, I'm a Patriot fan, so I was good with the whole Mo Lewis, Drew Bledsoe. Terrible for Drew. I love Drew, but obviously then the story of Tom Brady was there. It's funny because when I was at Temple, right, I know Al Golden did some miraculous work, but even after he left, it was, what's the status? What's the future of the program? Should they drop down a division? And then, like what you're saying, you get some big-time wins, right? You beat Penn State as Temple did. You have College game day in Philadelphia. You win a conference championship, and then things could change. Since you were there through a lot of it, does that make it maybe tougher to leave? Because that's an inevitable thing that comes up. I know coaches don't like to talk about this, but there's sometimes limitations of what you could do at a Temple or a Memphis when some of the big boys obviously come calling in college football.
Well, first off, look, anybody that ever comes calling it, it's a direct reflection of the success from those that came before me, right? The coaches, the great players we've had. We've had so many players that have poured their heart and soul into this program, and the administration, the fans. I say it all along, like the fans and the administration, the support from this community is what made Memphis football what it is today. And we got so many players that have just given so much. But we've elevated this place to a national level, and that's what you want. You want the place you're working at to be known, to be a top 25 program. And I think that's where we've gotten it, and we've got to continue to do that moving forward.
Now, I know John Summerall has a heck of a team with Tulane. I'm looking forward to watching this one on Friday night. Really great to have you on, and I appreciate the time. And sorry to bring up those painful memories of 2019 with Temple and Memphis. I didn't think that's where the conversation was going. And you first said it, I'm like, I remember something about that. And I'm like, oh, yeah, there was a controversial play in that game. So
that's right. Well, hey, you and I can talk about it. We're good. But Jack, appreciate you having me on, and looking forward to a great matchup on Friday night as well.